Hey everyone, it's Ollie and Jack, and in this tutorial, we're going to be discussing squatting movements. Now, squatting movements form a key part of virtually all our workouts for a couple of good reasons. Number one, they're incredible for building muscle strength and size in our legs, and that carries over to a lot of functional tasks, like getting up from a chair, getting up from the floor, and maybe even climbing stairs.
Okay, another reason you should be performing squatting movements in your workouts is for improving and treating knee conditions such as generalized knee pain and knee osteoarthritis, but also really important in the rehabilitation after surgeries such as total knee replacements or knee arthroscopies.
Okay, let's have a look at what squatting movements should look like more generally, and also how to modify them to make them suit you.
Okay, let's start with a standard bodyweight squat, mate. Do you want to show the folks at home what a bodyweight squat looks like for you? So as you can see Ollie doing here, he's chosen a stance which is suitable and comfortable for him, and that's going to vary between different people. The other thing he is doing is dropping his bottom towards the floor, nice and simple. Now, when it comes to modifying the movement to suit you, there are a couple of things we can do. First thing we're going to talk about is the stance setup. So Ollie can either choose a narrow, a more moderate, or even a wider stance. So for there, it's very narrow for him. It doesn't look that comfortable, so he might widen his stance a tiny bit. That may be, I reckon, the best for him, but for you it might be even wider. So you could do a really, really wide, more of a sumo stance there. Now, when you're looking at your stance, you might want to turn your feet outwards slightly. That may suit you more. Or you might be feet completely straight, just like that. As long as you have all of your foot flat on the ground, that's the most important thing for your stance. Okay, mate, the other thing we're going to talk about is torso angle. So you can either squat really, really upright, and some people can do that, or you're allowed to let your torso come over a little bit to make it more tolerable and manageable for you. It's going to depend on your anatomy and your flexibility, but basically remember to do what suits you. So there are some key tips of how to modify a standard squat.
All right, let's talk about another version of the squat, the sit to stand.
Cool.
So this one is from a seated position in a chair, as you can see Jack performing now. And you can see that the movement is quite similar to the bodyweight squat.
Yep.
Except that Jack is resting his bottom on the chair each repetition. And Jack will show you from the side, just like so. Now, when it comes to modifying the sit to stand, the same cues apply. So Jack can modify his stance position by taking a wider stance, or perhaps a narrower stance, depending on what's comfortable for him.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that Jack can do is actually change his torso angle by leaning further forward, which is going to be more comfortable for some people, or equally, some people might prefer to keep more upright. Okay, so basically the same principles apply to modifying the sit to stand or the bodyweight squat.
Okay, let's run through another squatting movement, the split squat, which is more single leg focused, looks very similar to a lunge movement. So Ollie is going to, with one leg, step out as far as is comfortable for him, and all he's going to do is drop his back knee to the ground whilst keeping a nice upright torso. So this is one of the movements where you can keep a nice upright torso, just like that. And do you want to show them directly from the side here? So all he's doing here is dropping his back knee to the ground, and remember, he's letting his heel come off the ground at the back. A lot of people try to keep their foot flat at the back, but you're allowed to come up, or you should really be coming up onto your toes. Now, make sure your front foot is nice and firm and flat on the ground. Now, a couple of modifications you can make to this is the length of your stance. Okay, so for some people, they try a very small stance, okay, and that is quite tough to keep your torso upright, and can also be a little bit painful on the knees for some people. What you can do is lengthen that stance, and that may make it a bit easier, just like that. Excellent. Another thing Ollie might like to do to make it more stable is widen his stance. So rather than doing it like you're on a tightrope, you might actually like to widen that stance, and it's going to make him more stable. And alternatively, you can always hold onto a bench or something like that to give you a little bit more stability. Okay, mate, well, there is the split squat modifications. Alrighty, so we've shown you how you can modify your squatting movements to suit you, and just keep in mind that they don't have to look exactly like we were doing in the examples. They just have to suit you specifically.
So take what you've learnt and apply it to your workouts.